I'm Trung Nguyen, and I am a comic book artist and author. I live in Minneapolis, and I raise a little flock of hens who are super, super spoiled. So, Angelica and the Bear Prince is ostensibly a romance. It is about a young girl who finds herself completely burned out by all of the responsibilities that she has accrued in her time in high school. And so she just decides to just focus on one thing going forward. And so she joins a local theater and she starts to develop a crush on the person who is in a bear suit. And so it seems like a largely straightforward teen romance comic book. But one of the things that I found myself really drawn to in the book, and that I hope that readers will pick on up on too, is there is some reflection of grief that goes on in the story. Each of the characters goes through certain changes in their life or reflects on the people in their life that aren't there anymore. And so the characters all sort of reckon with the size and the scope of their specific experiences of grief, depending on where they find themselves in their lives and how those experiences kind of press up against one another as they kind of go through the motions and go through the different parts of their lives. And so I kind of hope that that becomes a sort of inflection point. I hope that people can connect over the different ways that they find comfort in each other and in community. Um, I think a lot of my writing actually comes from my love of fairy tales. I'm someone who loves reading the same stories over and over and over. I love revisiting books that I've read when I was younger at different points in my life to sort of check in and see where my values have been and like how I've changed and how things have sort of transitioned. So just kind of checking in with myself over old stories is something that I love. And I like reading different iterations of different fairy tales because I just love the notion that fairy tales kind of change in order to survive from place to place. It's something that I've always been really fascinated with. And so I love old stories. I also love to read nonfiction books. For some reason, I'm finding it occasionally very difficult when I'm working on a work of fiction to read other works of fiction that I haven't already read before. It puts me in this frame of mind where I kind of feel like like I'm afraid I'll start nitpicking at things and I can't look at things just as a reader. And nonfiction is a great way for me to pull myself out of that mode of thinking. Libraries have always been an enormous part of my life. I tell people all the time that one of my fondest memories growing up is because, my family are Vietnamese refugees. We came over when I was very, very young, and we would go to the public library, and I got to pick out all of the books that we would read to learn the English language together. And so I have a lot of really just warm memories of going to the library and picking out books and reading them with my parents. And so the library has been there for me from the very beginning. And in my process of doing a lot of, research for the magic fish, and visual research is so difficult because there are keywords that you don't always have ready on hand. You have vague memories, you have descriptions of things. And my research process involved going to the library and finding a librarian and saying, hey, based on vibes, where can you point me in the direction of these like historical markers so that I can find resources for visual development for this project. And it's something that they were able to do and send me home with free resources. They would copy periodicals. And so there are so many incredible resources at the public library that I wish more people knew about. And so the library continues to be an enormous part of my process and my kind of just everyday life.